This is a tribute hike for Levi Duclos. It's not investigative. I'm here to celebrate his life and to honor his memory. The Emily Proctor Trail starts out right away with a climb here. Levi was hiking this trail on January 9th, a little under 6 months ago, and I can already see why he would love the trail. It's absolutely beautiful. Of course, there were no leaves at the time, but it's one of the lesser traveled trails simply because it's right in the middle of a section of long trail, and even some side trails are traveled much more than this is. One of the boundary markers will now be entering the Breadloaf wilderness. We get glimpses through the trees, through the leaves, of the main ridge of the Green Mountains. It's over there, it's less than a mile away, and we'll be going back along that to the Cooley Glen trail. Can't see it well, but you can hear it. We're pretty high above a branch of the New Haven River. And this is one of the reasons I come to the forest. The sounds are just amazing. A series of rocks placed on the trail here. I'm sure it's very helpful when the trail's much wetter. There's some more trail work. Some actual water flowing through. You can still hear the stream off to my left. Of course, traveling this trail in the winter, all of these things would be covered up by snow and ice. The trail is marked by a subtle color of blue blaze. Some of them are very subtle, which is okay with me. At this point, one might be tempted to take what looks like a trail here. It's really just a way to get over to the stream. Now this bridge took some major back power. I don't believe those rocks were there to start with. Almost immediately we're ceremoniously led down a staircase to the stream, and this is a real crossing here. To make this crossing, rather than climb up on the rock, I'm going to step on that small rock that's just slightly underwater. It doesn't look like it's slippery. I'm going to hold on to the big rock and just head across. I came to one of the fords on the Appalachian Trail in Maine, and while we were figuring out how to, one of us was crossing it about 8 feet high on a log, and the rest of us were taking off our boots and putting on our Crocs and wading across. A guy who had completed the major 3 trails north-south in the United States, a go-light hiker I guess you would call him, simply just ran through it. Didn't matter to him whether his boots were wet or not. Matters to me. Well, this is not an object you usually find way out in the middle of the woods. Must have been some type of settlement here, maybe a logging operation. Most likely logging. The whole state was clear-cut 150 years ago or so. Here's a brook with a little more spirit. This is hardly even a traverse anymore. It's barely uphill. still going to reach the base of the mountain somewhere where it gets much steeper. This is an absolutely beautiful trail during the summer. It's all shaded very nicely. We're now more on the side of the main ridge than we are of the front ridge. Probably can't see it with the exposure here. It just keeps on leading up the hillside very nicely. Captured by the mountains. There were huge storms 2 days ago. A little bit last night, I think. This occurred when something bigger moved through. Trail's gaining some good altitude now, going up a little more steeply. But like most of the trails in the Green Mountains, and really in the northeast, the steepest part is usually right near the ridgeline. And now we're going more directly up the hillside. It's not what I'd call steep, but it's definitely steeper than it was before. Getting nearer the top and still more streams. Wonderful. Trees just do whatever they need to reach the light. Still climbing, still more brooks, but they're getting smaller. Levi was a tough soccer player for Mount Abe. I briefly coached him with the summer team, the Middlebury Panthers, but he was with the junior team and I worked mainly with the senior team. But at Mount Abe he was a relentless central defender, captain, running around with his blazing red hair. And he made sure that it was difficult to get by him or to win the ball. I didn't hike with Levi or with his dad, Dave, but it's said that both of them were always fastest up the trail and fastest down. And I guess that's why it makes this all the harder to fathom. He would hike trails in winter without snowshoes and still be the fastest person. I have no doubt that they're running up and down mountains together in the sky. You always know you're getting near the top when you see more daylight. No dark masses of hills around you. But there's a little bit more to go. Pretty steady slope up through here. Not what I would call steep, but we're gaining some altitude. Beautiful trail. Trail seems to be leveling out just a little bit here. I can feel the top, but can't quite see it just yet. Trail's rocky and just a little bit slick going down through here. I would take some care. I'll be going down the Cooley Glen trail though. is what makes this trail delightful, though. You can just tell by walking along it that it's not well traveled. That means it's not worn out. Every now and then you run into a natural cathedral in the woods. Of course, as far as I'm concerned, everything in the woods is sacred. Still blue blazes. And Breadloaf is just right over my right shoulder here. Here's the Emily Proctor shelter, and the long trail can't be far away. Here's the very top of Breadloaf Mountain. Not one of the clear summits in New England at 3,800 feet plus. But there's a little side trail that goes around to look off, and I'll go over there. Here's just a little side ledge on the western end of Breadloaf. There are some trails at the Snow Bowl. There's Robert Frost Mountain right there. Levi's home is over the top of that mountain, down behind the cobble in New Haven. Past Robert Frost Mountain is Snake Mountain, which rises about 1,000 feet above base level in a pretty flat area, so it has a spectacular view on the west side of the Adirondack Peaks and Lake Champlain. This is something I love to do. Walk the ridge line on the long trail. And so did Levi. So you always want to make sure you're on the trail. You can usually tell by the wear on the ground. But if there don't happen to be any white markers, there could be a mini cairn that'll tell you you're still on the right track. Here's a cool little section of trail right near the top of Mount Wilson, right through the scrub spruce. It'll be even more beautiful in winter. Absolutely gorgeous trail through here. Thick moss and pine needles and leaves underfoot. It's almost as if no one's walked here. Taking the loop in the other direction, this provides a nice little scramble up through here. Okay, what landscape architect could design something like this? Okay, this would be the actual Killington View spot. I've just passed Mount Roosevelt, and I think Killington and Pico are in the distance right there. Of course, nearby, here's Mount Wilson. And there's Breadloaf. On the descent from Mount Cleveland to Cooley Glen shelter, a few hundred vertical feet. This has been a very rugged day hike under the best of conditions. might not be too much more difficult with snow and ice if it was a firm snowpack. Could do some sliding in some places, skiing, but not just a jaunt in the woods. Well, I'm down in Cooley Glen now. I'm not going over to the shelter right now. I'm going to head down the trail, hit the spring on the way down. The trail goes up quite steeply here, along rocky ledges to start out, so going in the opposite direction that I did, it's not a piece of cake. I can see that this Cooley Glen trail would be a quick way to gain altitude on the mountain or to go down. Nice and smooth, same grade all the way down through here. It's just a joy to walk on it. On Earth for less than 20 years. The world's not ready for you to be gone. Peace and love to everyone that knew you.